Good evening, Dr. Rice and classmates. My topic for tonight is all about corpus-based approaches. What is a corpus? Corpus, its plural form corpora, is a large collection of language, usually held electronically, which can be used for the purposes of linguistic analysis. The earliest corpora were compiled by hand and consisted of biblical text. In the modern era, an early electronically stored corpus was the Brown corpus, developed at Brown University, USA in the early 1960s and consisting of 1 million words. The more notable and more recent corpora are the following. Bank of English, developed by Co-Build at Birmingham University, UK, which consists of well over 500 million words. The British National Corpus, BNC, consisting of 100 million words, in the Corpus of Contemporary American English, COCA, consisting of over 425 million words and still growing. It is also worth mentioning the corpora with educational academic applications. We have the Michigan Corpus of Academic Spoken English, the Michigan Corpus of Upper-Level Student Papers, their British counterparts, the British Academic Spoken English Corpus, and the British Academic Written English Corpus. In the Test of English as a Foreign Language TOEFL 2000 Spoken and Written Academic Language Corpus. Let's define corpus linguistics. Corpus linguistics is the application of computational tools to the analysis of corpora in order to reveal language patterns which systematically occur in them. What is the rationale for such an analysis? First, large amount of text can be analyzed automatically, much more than would be humanly possible manually, and that, on the other hand, patterns may be revealed by the computational tools which may not be obvious to the naked eye. Second, corpus techniques are capable of providing information about various features of language, including lexis, multi-word phrases, grammar, semantics, pragmatics, and textual features. Corpus linguists, they have key insights. First, the physiological nature of language. How language is at least partly made up of more or less prefabricated multi-word chunks. For example, on the one hand, by the way, today I'm going to. Sinclair referred to this tendency as the idiom principle. Open choice principle has traditionally informed linguistics, whereby the speaker has many word-for-word options in building up discourse. That is to say that many words possibly fit into any given slot, as long as they are grammatical. The lexical approach was later taken up and popularized by most notably Lewis, who coined the slogan, "Language is grammaticalized lexis, not lexicalized grammar." Howe developed Sinclair's idiom principle further in his theory of lexical priming. Lexical priming occurs when a vocabulary item is acquired and it becomes loaded with the context, linguistic, generic, and social, in which we repeatedly encounter it, such that we subconsciously expect and replicate these contexts when we read, write, hear, and speak. What are some of the features that corpus linguistics can analyze? First, we have word frequency. Second, collocation. Third, colligation. Fourth, semantic prosody. And fifth, semantic preference. Word frequency is the most fundamental feature that can be analyzed by means of corpus techniques. Most corpus software such as Uncount and Wordsmith tools, the two most popular publicly available packages, the former being downloadable for free, can produce frequency lists, which can be ordered alphabetically or by frequency. at the example. The top 20 nouns in the COBOL corpus and in biology corpus. For COBOL corpus, the following nouns are time, people, wave, man, years, work, world, thing, day, children, life, man, fact, house, kind, year, place, home, sort, and ant. For biology corpus, cell, cells, water, membrane, food, plant, roots, molecules, plants, wall, energy, concentration, organism, cytoplasm, animal, stem, structure, body part, and animals. The power of this application for language pedagogical purposes is in the potential for contrasting data from different corpora and obtaining information about register variation according to field of discourse. What is collocation? It is a combination of lexical words with one another. The word fast is likely to collocate in a large general corpus with words like train and food. For example, fast train and fast food, but is unlikely to be found together with meal or sleep. Quick, on the other hand, is likely to be found with shower and meal, as in quick shower and quick meal, but not with train or food. Collocates are identified by concordance, which display the node word in the center of the screen, allowing for identification of their collocates on both the left and the right. If words immediately following the node word to the right are ordered alphabetically, then it is easy to identify those items which most typically collocate with the node. The analysis can be repeated at subsequent intervals from the node word to the right and to the left. That is to say, 1, 2, 3, 4 words to the right, etc., and 1, 2, 3, 4 words to the left, etc. Normally, collocates are identified at up to 4 or 5 words to the right or left, and what constitutes a collocate is normally determined by statistical measures. The third feature of analysis is collocation, which refers to the grammatical as opposed to the lexical environments in which a word occurs. Hoey uses the word consequence to demonstrate collocation. He found, using Guardian newspaper, that consequence has a very low likelihood of appearing as the object of a clause, in contrast to preference and use, which do not occur frequently in such a position. Let's take a look at the example. The homeless are asked if they have a preference, and the minister called on schools to make use of the college's vocational experience. Hoey argues, based on his corpus data, sentences like the following are rare. Unfortunately, it also had this tragic consequence that the baby became grossly bloated. While collocation refers to the grammatical associations of a word in a sentence, textual collocation refers to the position where the word tends to occur within a discourse. The plural form of consequences, on the other hand, while not favoring an initial position in the sentence, does tend to occur in the first sentence of paragraphs. The fourth feature of analysis is semantic prosody, which refers to the meaning associations that words carry with them by virtue of their typical collocations with sets of semantically related words. Lowe, who popularized the term, defines semantic prosody as a consistent aura of meaning with which a form is imbued by its collocates. Examples of negative aura or semantic prosody are utterly bent on and symptomatic. For Stewart, he described the process by which semantic prosody is created. According to him, Semantic prosody is instantiated when a word such as cause co-occurs regularly with words that share a given meaning or meanings, and then acquires some of the meaning or meanings of those words as a result. The acquired meaning is known as semantic prosody. So these semantic prosodies tend to be either negative or positive. By reading the concordances of the word cause in the Cobell corpus, Stubbs found that in common with Low's common example of utterly bent on and symptomatic, in more than 90% of cases, the lexical environments of cause were negative. Cause collocated with words like accident, cancer, concern, damage, death, disease, pain, problems, and trouble. In contrast, a word like revived had a positive semantic prosody, typical collocating with words like aid, assistance, care, employment, facilities, food, funds, housing, jobs, money, opportunities, protection, relief, security, services, support, and training. Thus, semantic prosody is a type of pragmatic meaning, communicating a speaker's or writer's positive or negative attitude towards what he or she is saying. The fifth feature of analysis is semantic preference, which is related to semantic prosody. But the concern is not with pragmatic value, but with sets of words semantically related, according to the systems of synonymy, meronymy, and antonymy, as we looked at in Chapter 3, or which are typically associated with particular registers or genres. Words belonging to such sets can typically be found to collocate in corpora. Such sets can be given a gloss to label the semantic preference. Example semantic preferences might thus be measurement or causality, or history or medicine or research articles. Semantic preference is thus like semantic prosody, in that it refers to the meaning relations attaching to collocating sets. However, unlike semantic prosody, it does not carry with it any sense of attitudinal meaning. What is multidimensional analysis? It is a different approach to corpora that has been developed in the USA by BIBER and his followers. His distinctive approach was developed in his work published as Variation Across Speech and Writing. BIBER's purpose was to distinguish various named registers in terms of their configurations of linguistic. What is the process of multidimensional analysis? The starting point was a set of registers and a set of linguistic features. There were 23 registers that were employed, including press reports, biographies, official documents, academic prose, various types of fiction, personal and professional letters, face-to-face telephone conversations, interviews, and spontaneous speeches, to mention just some of those included. The linguistic features were 67 that were used in the analysis. So what are some of the linguistic features that were used in the analysis? They were syntactic, for example, tenses, relative clauses, adverbials. Lexical classes, mean word length, and semantic features, for example, different types of modals, place and time adverbials. These features were also utilized. Following are the functional parameters. When the corpus was tagged automatically to identify the various features and the frequency of each of the features. First is involved versus information production. Second, narrative versus non-narrative concerns. Third, elaborated versus situation-dependent reference. Fourth, overt expression of resolution. And fifth, abstract versus non-abstract style. BIBER's analysis was used in one of the first corpus-based grammars of English, the Longman Grammar of Spoken and Written English. An innovative feature of this grammar is the frequency data which are provided for the various grammatical features across registers. In the most recent work of BIBER and colleagues, they applied a multidimensional approach to discourse structure using computerized techniques known as text styling. Text styling is a technique that identifies stretches of discourse referred to as vocabulary-based discourse units, or in short, VBDUs, that are maximally dissimilar in their vocabulary. The assumption being that different sets of words will be used in different types of VBDU. So this is the summary of the steps in the VBDU analysis. First, identify all VBDU multi-register corpus using text styling. Number 2, analyze the linguistic characteristics of each VBDU using multidimensional analysis. Third, identify and interpret the basic VBDU types using cluster analysis. Fourth, analyze the preferred VBDU types in each register. And fifth, analyze the structure of particular text as sequences of VBDU types. Figure 9.2 is an example of text extract from classroom teaching showing the location of vocabulary-based discourse unit or VBDU boundaries. Let me introduce you to another approach, corpus-assisted discourse analysis. A distinguishing feature of discourse approaches to corpus analysis, sometimes referred to as CADS, is that analysts are concerned to consider not only the corpus-derived data, but also the text and context from which these data are derived. It introduces an additional qualitative dimension to analysis. In addition, where mainstream corpora may consist of samples of text, corpora used in CADS will more likely be made up of complete text. Baker discusses a number of advantages of a corpus-based approach to discourse as follows. First, because corpus tools can provide many examples of a given linguistic phenomenon, they can provide a greater degree of objectivity that can a qualitative analysis that may be limited to a single text or small number of text. Second, a corpus-based approach can identify what he refers to as the incremental effect of discourse, by which he means how discourses with a small d are built up over time even though a particular item might not occur that frequently. The use of a particular linguistic feature identified in a single text, which might lead the analyst in a particular direction, may not be corroborated in a corpus of text. The corpus thus here serves as a check on the analyst. Fourth, the opportunity that it provides for triangulation, the use of multiple methods of analysis. Discourse analysis of individual text represents one mode of inquiry, while corpus-based study represents another, both supporting each other and making the analysis more reliable. How about corpora and context? For Widdowson, he critiqued corpus approaches on the grounds that while a corpus can provide examples of language, it does not tell us anything about the context in which those examples were produced. He also added that reality does not travel with the text. But for some corpus linguists who opposed his opinion, such as Stubbs, Tognelli, and Bonelli, the elements of social meaning can be identified through recurrent patterns occurring in a corpus. This is a strong argument for introducing elements of the context into the analysis. In fact, as indicated in the previous section, there are now numerous examples of studies incorporating contextual features with corpus analysis, especially in academic and professional contexts. A relatively recent development in discourse-focused corpus analysis has been to look at the distinctive features of generic moves. BIBER and others' book, Discourse on the Move, referred to earlier combined chapters which on one hand use bottom-up BVDU analysis to identify discourse move, as discussed above, while on the other hand, using top-down manual tagging to identify moves. So let's take a look at the corpus-based approach called move analysis. So here you can see the analytical framework that you can use when you analyze a text. So these are divided into two. We have contextual analysis and linguistic analysis. There are also components for each one. For contextual analysis, the questions that need to be answered are: what is the name of the genre of which this text is a part? Number 2, social content. In what social setting is this kind of text typically produced? What constraints and obligations does this setting impose on writers and readers? Next is communicative purpose. What is the communicative purpose of this text? Role. What roles may be required of writers and readers in this genre? Next, cultural values. What shared cultural values may be required of writers and readers in this genre? Text context. What knowledge of other texts may be required of writers and readers in this genre? What shared knowledge of formal text features conventions is required to write effectively in this genre? For linguistic analysis, the following questions are to be answered. Lexicogrammatical features. What lexigrammatical features of the text are statistically prominent and stylistically salient? Text relations or textual patterning. Can textual patterns be identified in a text? What is the reason for such textual patterning? And the third question, under linguistic analysis, text structure. How is a text organized as a series of units? What is the reason for this organization? The research reported above in section 9.7 made use of relatively small corpora. It did not seek to make any broad generalizations about language as done with larger reference corpora, but it provided information about particular genres, that is to say, research articles, business meetings, and telephone service encounters. These small corpora are frequently reinterpreted as computers become more powerful. But it is difficult to define what a small corpus is exactly. So we have to take note of important variables such as, are the data written or spoken? For written data, it is easily managed and can often be downloaded directly from the internet. However, spoken data is time-consuming because it takes time to transcribe. One danger if a corpus is too small is that of not having enough examples. Any corpus has half of its words occurring only once, but in corpus work we need multiple examples not only of words, but of pairs or more of words occurring together to get representative examples of grammatical usage, collocations, or prosody. On the other hand, if working with restricted registers and genres, the likelihood of new words being added when the size of the corpus is increased is less. Let's not underestimate using small corpora because there are three main advantages of using them. First, small corpora are relatively easy to create, often being constructed by teachers and curriculum developers themselves. Second, data can be limited to a particular genre in a particular setting, and so salient features of the genre are not drowned out by data from other genres and or settings. Third, small corpora can be processed by readily available software packages such as Uncount and Wordsmith tools or web-based tools. These three advantages of small corpora make them ideal for application in many language teaching situations and are in particular in specific purpose contexts. What is learner corpora? Learner corpora are systematic collections of learner language data. The aim of learner corpora is to compare learner usage with native or expert usage. A given learner corpus may also be compared to other learner corpora. Most learner corpora are collected from learners of a particular language background so that the distinctive interlanguage of those speakers or writers is represented and can be compared with expert usage or from other L2s. Probably the best known collection of learner corpora is the International Corpus of Learner English ICLE created by Granger with her students and colleagues. This collection originally consisted of written language or argumentative essays, but there is now also a suite of spoken language corpora. In addition, there is a comparable corpus of L1 data apart from ICLE. More and more learner corpora are being created worldwide. These developments include diachronic learner corpora, which track learners over a period of time. For example, the In Progress of Longitudinal Database of Learner English project by the Center for English Corpus Linguistics, University of Louvain, Belgium. Learner corpora are usually annotated for features of learner interlanguage or errors. Comparison of learner and expert corpora can reveal inappropriate use and also over and underuse of given features on the part of the learners. Findings from learner corpus analysis can be applied to dictionaries, grammars, and the design of syllabus. When we discuss the application of corpus linguistics to language education, a distinction can be made between direct and indirect approaches. Indirect approaches are concerned with the use of corpus research methods in the production of dictionaries, grammars, and teaching materials. Dictionaries is the area in which corpora have had the greatest impact. In fact, lexicography provided some of the impetus for corpus linguistics as a discipline of inquiry. Corpus findings can enrich a dictionary by providing frequency data, authentic examples for citations, and empirically based information about grammatical usage and register and genre variation. So when we look at any words in the dictionary, we have to take note of the 5 questions that the learner and linguistics need to ask about any word. First, what does the word mean? Second, what words does it associate with? Third, what meanings does it associate with? Fourth, what grammatical functions does it associate with? And fifth, what positions in the text does the word favor? Corpus-informed dictionaries are followed by reference grammar, Sinclair again being the precursor with the Collins-Coble English grammar. This has been followed by the Longman grammar of spoken and written English and the Cambridge grammar of English. With regard to grammar resource books, again, Collins, under the leadership again of Sinclair, was the first with an extensive series called Collins-Coble English Guides. Titles focus on linguistic features such as determiners, linking words, and reporting. There are also course books and then specialized indirect applications. So corpora have been used by practitioners in the field. Flower Dew, 1993, describes how an ESP syllabus and a set of course materials can be designed using input and frequency and concordance data derived from the corpus of lectures and readings. A resource which is being widely applied in the field of English for academic purpose is Coxhead's Academic Word List, a corpus-derived list. The list consists of 570 word families that are not among the most frequent 2,000 words of English, but which are frequent in academic registers. The list can be used in the preparation of EAP courses. More recently, lists have been created based on lexical phrases or bundles. What about direct applications? It involves the actual use of corpora or corpus outputs in the classroom. With direct corpus approaches to pedagogy, we enter a field referred to as data-driven learning, which was developed by T. Johns, the idea being that students themselves become linguistic researchers. T. Johns also used the metaphor of language detective and the slogan, "Every student a Sherlock Holmes," to describe the role of the learner in DDL. With DDL, the student works directly with corpora or corpus outputs. The student is thus immersed in an environment of authentic language, sometimes referred to as real language as opposed to artificial language by proponents of DDL. In DDL, learners need to seek answers to questions that can be found by means of corpus queries and or concordance lines. They need to conduct research, analyze their current patterns to be found in concordance lines, and make their own generalizations. Language education and lexical priming. Hohe's 2005 theory of lexical priming has particular implications for language teaching. He writes that following his theory of priming, when the vocabulary of the first language is acquired, it is learned for the first time. When a second language is learned, however, the learner will likely already have the primings from the first language vocabulary, which will be superimposed on the primings of the new language. In the early stages of learning, this might be an aid, Hohe claims, but later, when more subtle meanings are at stake, Hohe's theory implies that a whole new field of false friends will come into play, that is to say, words that have the same meaning in two languages but which are primed differently in terms of collocation, semantic prosody, and semantic reference. The theory presents a major challenge in terms of methodology. When the first language user builds up primings over a lifetime in authentic context of use, second language learners need to do this over a limited time scale and usually in the context of the classroom. Rather than teaching lists of words and their primings, a better strategy for a teacher is likely to be one that teaches based on corpus data, noticing and learning strategies that assist learners in developing what might be called the priming literacy. Corpus linguistics as an approach to language has its fair share of criticisms. Corpus analysis, in spite of the appearance that it gives of objectivity, it is still subjective. Well, subjective in terms of the items selected for analysis and in terms of the interpretation put on the data by the analyst. Second, Corpus data may go out of date. Language is evolving all the time, and so researchers need to be aware that if they want to represent contemporary usage, their corpora need to be up to date. Please allow me to share some of the criticisms of corpus applications to language education. Gilkin and Granger identified 4 potential drawbacks. First, logistical, concerning money and time. The cost of acquiring and maintaining the necessary hardware and software may be beyond the budgets of schools and universities, even in sophisticated societies. Second, that from the teacher's point of view, teachers will need in-service training to be able to develop DDL. Third, from the learner's point of view, adapting to be able to learn through DDL requires time and effort. And the fourth one, in terms of the content of learning, teachers need to make sure that the data they are using are appropriate, correspond to appropriate register, genre, and level of difficulty of the learners, and represent contemporary. There are 2 further issues of concern, such as if data-driven learning becomes too dominant, the generative power of structural grammar may be ignored. Second, in a lexical approach, there is a lot of emphasis on the many patterns individual words can enter into. So there is a risk of too much depth and not enough breadth in terms of the range of learning items. And according to Swales, the final danger is that data-driven learning carries with it the risk of an emphasis on the decontextualized corpus line at a time when applied linguists are still, after many years, struggling to get away from this approach to language. That will be all for my presentation tonight. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Carmela Tizon, your presenter for tonight. I am now ready to entertain your questions. Thank you so much.